We're here with Andrus Washington, cookie maker to the stars right here in Atlanta, Georgia. Andrus, first of all, congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Your cookies are amazing.
Thank you.
And we're going to get to the recipes in just a moment.
Okay.
But first, let's start with how in the world did we become the cookie maker? I know it's a passion of yours. I know it was a dream.
Sure.
But what were we doing before we were making cookies, which I think people are going to find fascinating?
Before making cookies, I was a producer for TMZ. I went out and chased celebrities around with my camera and got content and did stories. And if you look them up, you can find them on TMZ.com, of course. And you'll hear me talking in the background, talking to celebrities. And basically, this started during that time of COVID. I was at home, and TMZ we were trying to figure out what we wanted to do with the field reporters, because we didn't know, there was no content to go out and get. Right. And so I was bored out of my mind, and I started to remember a conversation that my brother had with me years back when I made some cookies for him. He said, you could really do this, like you could sell these cookies. And I'm like, no, I don't think I should. And so, his wife called me up and she said, hey, can you send me some of those cookies that we love so much? And I'm like, I can. And so I sent her the cookies, and she calls back again, hey, my coworkers want to know, do you sell those cookies? I'm like, no, I don't sell cookies for the last time. I do not sell cookies. And so, so at this point, a couple of weeks passed by, and I'm talking to a coworker at TMZ, and I'm telling her about my sister-in-law, this obnoxious request to ask for cookies and blah, 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 blah. She was like, well, if the cookies are good, you should totally sell them. And I'm like, well, she says, well, how about you send some cookies to my boyfriend? And I'm like, I'm not selling these cookies, people. But again, I'm listening to the universe, and I'm like, okay, well, I should. So I sent some cookies to him. She was like, he absolutely loved them. And so she asked me to send some to another boyfriend, and I did. I'm like, this lady's got boyfriends all over the place. And I did. So, but needless to say, one thing led to another. I started to get local orders for cookies. And I started to create different recipes and just kind of expand what you see here today. Mm-hmm. And so that was September, October, November, December. At that point, I started doing free boxes to different people. Okay. And so at some point, one of the people down at Turner Enterprises got their hands on some of my cookies, and they called me right up and said, hey, we want to do 37 dozen for our favorite things basket for our clients in December.
Oh my gosh.
And so I'm like, this is really starting to take off and be something bigger than I thought it would actually be.
Right.
And so here we are today. We're 2 years in from the original start date, and cookies.
Nice.
It's cookies.
Nice. What a blessing. Don't you love it when a plan comes together?
The plan came all the way together. All the way together.
So tell me a little bit about your business background. I mean, because that's one of the things that gets folks in analysis paralysis,
Sure.
right? Trying to come up with their business model.
Sure.
I got to know how to price my cookies. I mean, do you have any formal business training, or was this just a passion?
I can't say that I really have any formal business training. Mm-hmm. As far as my background is concerned, I've worked for some titans of industry. I mean, I've worked for RBS WorldPay. I've worked for AT&T. I've worked for Sprint and Nextel. I've been around the world, essentially. I worked for this company called World Airways, where I was a flight attendant. So I have a background in so many different areas. But as far as my formal background, I have a degree in public relations, and I don't have any formal baking training, if you will.
Right.
I don't have any business savvy other than I've lived my life, and I'm trying to apply it to business now. And so I'm learning as I go, and I am actually looking for people to help me grow the business in that direction. Yeah.
Right. Wow, that is amazing. Tell me a little bit more about the baking process, right? Because, folks are intimidated by baking, right? My wife's like, I'm not a good baker. Yes, you are, honey. You are a good baker.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
But, you feel like if you miss an ingredient, you don't put an extra pinch, too much sugar, not enough sugar.
Sure.
How do you know when it was right? How did you know that you hit it? And then you started developing new flavors, which is like, that new flavor, the lemon.
Yes, the lemonade.
Oh, the lemonade flavor. My wife loves.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of sugar in it. But how'd you know when it was right? How'd you know when you got that snickerdoodle right?
Sure.
That chocolate chip cookie, which I love.
Yes.
Which I love.
I have some of those for you today.
Yeah. How'd you know when you got it right?
I knew because when I tasted it. So here's the thing. Growing up, I grew up in Louisiana, so I feel like I get it honest. I feel like when you grow up in Louisiana, you always have a good palate, no matter who you are, where you're from. But when it came down to it, I grew up in Louisiana. My auntie who raised me, actually. She was a cook. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of times she would bring me in the kitchen and say, hey, come in here. And I would have a little step stool at 3 or 4 years old. And she'd be baking a cake and she'd say, hey, mix this in here for me, or do that for me, or can you help me with this cake, or can you help me make these homemade preserves, right, or can you help me do this or that? And I would do it all the time. And so essentially flavor, taste, palate, I matured at a very, very early age. And so when it came to baking today and I love cooking, number one. So I love putting things together and letting my friends taste it, and people love actually eating my food, which I love too. But as far as the cookies were concerned, I knew I had good flavors, good recipes. Once I started tasting them, once I've actually, like I said, putting the chocolate, sourcing the ingredients, the oats, the nuts. I get all of those things from local farmers and people like that. So it's good source quality ingredients. Right. It's premium chocolates that you're getting. And so mixing all of those things together and then, like I said, baking it and then actually getting the good product, that's the one thing I'm like, ooh, this is good. Once I taste it, like, this product is so good. Right. So, and people kept telling me that, like, you have a really good product, and that's how I knew. Because I was doubting. I'm like, well, I bake these cookies all the time. Right. So I'm like, nobody wants my cookies. But like I said, once I started baking them for other people, they were like, oh my gosh, these are really good cookies. Yeah. So now I have good cookies, and I'm so excited about it. Yeah.
Right. And you know, I guess what's also amazing here too is kind of the sidebar here, if you will. But you found the silver lining in the COVID shutdown, and you know, the right size, the downsize, the get out the door, you know, don't let the door hit you when the good Lord split you. I mean, you found the silver lining.
Sure.
In what was happening, you know, while many folks were sitting around saying, woe is me. So, you know, we talk a lot about mindset now. How did you get your mind right? You know, to say, you know what, I'm going to take this leap of faith and make it work for me.
It was one of those things where cooking became a healing thing for me, because we were in COVID and we were locked in. It became number one, it helped me get my mind off of all the things. A lot of people always say cooking is a healing process, or it helps you concentrate, or it helps you focus. And so that's exactly what it did. And then the second part of it was knowing that I was actually touching other people. Because like I said, in the beginning, it was a labor of love. It wasn't let me sell boxes of cookies to everybody that I possibly can in order to make a profit. It was, I'm going to send cookies to this person because I want to see a smile on their face. Or I want to send cookies to this person on Facebook who I've never met before because their sister just passed away. And so I want to put a smile on their face. And so I've gotten so many messages over the couple of years that I've actually been doing this saying, hey, thank you for, you know, this box of cookies or that box of cookies. I wasn't really expecting it, but we really appreciate it. Right. So yeah, things like that. That's what helped me get through it.
Now I understand why you have the little special touches with your customer service background from the airline industry. Sure. You know, customer service first.
Yes.
Your presentations are phenomenal. The boxes, the ribbons. Like, my wife keeps the ribbon. Am I supposed to tell that? My wife keeps the ribbons and the boxes. Sure. Tell me a little bit more about that process, because, I mean, you put love into it. You put your heart and soul into it, and you can feel it, you know, just through the presentation.
Well, that process is this. For me, it was one of those things where, as I said, this whole thing started during COVID. So I wanted to not only just let people have something good to eat, but also get a gift, essentially. And so it was like, when you first receive the package, you're like, oh my gosh, what's in there? Or you're so surprised to receive it. It's a gift. And so that's what I wanted to feel like. And then beyond the gift, what's inside is actually even more of a gift. Right. So that was the idea behind it. Something that I would like, something that I'd like to receive. So yeah, do unto others is always my golden rule.
Absolutely. And it's an amazing gift. Wow, you give incredible gifts.
Thank you.
And I'm so thankful you came into my life.
Thank
Not
you.
good for my waistline, but it's good for the soul.
Andrus, what a pleasure. Thank you so much. Tell folks out there how they can get in touch with you.
Sure. You can find us at www.boxofficecookies.com, or you can also find us on Instagram at boxofficecookies.
All right, awesome.